Greetings, my friends. This is the state of menopause in the world today, and I am Menopause Taylor. Actually, I feel like some of you are my family because you have been with me for as long as I've had this radio show. And so when you think about it, we share a whole lot of experiences, and we've come to have a lot in common. So let's add one other thing to the long lists of things that we have in common now. We've been working our way through a unit on heart attack, and if you haven't been listening to these podcasts in order, you should, because they really do follow a very specific order, and it's so beneficial to get the material in order. And our topic for today is your family as it pertains to your risk for heart attack. And what I do is I cover all your risk factors for everything, and in the next podcast, I'll give you the whole list of risk factors. But today, I just want to talk about your family. I want to talk about your family history, which is only one of the risk factors. Now, do you know why I want to talk specifically about your family history and nothing else? I'm going to guess that you assume that it's the most important factor. Well, it isn't. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's the least important factor. You see, the problem is that most people think it's the most important, treat it as the most important, and in the process of doing all those things, overlook all the factors that actually are the most important. So I'm going to take this opportunity to put it all into perspective for you. I don't want you emphasizing the least important factor at the expense of all the more important factors. You see, your family. I care about you. Now, why should you listen to this podcast on family history as a risk factor for heart attack, especially when I just told you it's not important? Well, because most people have this particular risk factor misplaced. And listening to this podcast will ensure that you're not one of them. You see, over and over, I encounter women who have a positive family history of heart attack. Now, positive family history of heart attack means that you have one or more family members who have had a heart attack. In any family tree, a family history of heart attack means one or more of the people in the family tree have had a heart attack. It may be a close relative like your father, or it may be a more distant relative like your great aunt. It may be someone on your father's side of the family, or it might be someone on your mother's side of the family. When it comes to a family history of heart attack, it really doesn't matter how close they are or which side of the family they're on. All that matters is that they're family. Of course, it's more significant if they're a blood relative. People who marry into your family aren't as important, but they actually are more significant than you might imagine. Now, why do you suspect that someone who isn't even a blood relative might have some bearing on your risk for a heart attack? Well, it's very simple. Your risk for a heart attack has a lot more to do with your environment than it does with your family. Think about it. Families share the same environment. In a family, you usually live near each other, and if you live near each other, you may have many things in common. You probably have similar diets. Face it, you learn a lot about food from your family. You probably all like the same dishes. You may cook the same recipes. Food is probably a large part of what you share with your family. So, although you share genetic material with your family, the diet you adopt actually has more of an impact on your risk for a heart attack than your genes do. And you can do a whole lot with your diet to reduce the chance of your heart attack genes from manifesting. Another thing that you share with your family is your lifestyle. Some families are very active They engage in active sports together. Exercise is one of the things they have in common. Other families are sedentary. Family time entails sitting around watching movies or playing video games. So while you share genetic material, the activity level you adopt is more important than your genes in determining your risk for a heart attack. You can drastically reduce your risk for a heart attack with exercise alone. Another thing that is common among family members is certain habits. Smoking is a common habit among family members. Dental hygiene or lack thereof is common among family members. Alcohol drinking habits are common among family members. And all of these things have a much greater impact on your risk for a heart attack than your genes alone. So while your family history is pertinent to your risk for a heart attack, it is nowhere near as important as your diet, activity level, or lifestyle habits. Your risk for heart attack is not imposed upon you. Rather, it's something you control. You have more control over your risk of a heart attack than just about anything else. And this podcast is designed to make sure you know that. So, I'm going to present 3 different scenarios. And they will depict the different possibilities for women with families having a history of heart attack. And they will show you what a difference you can make in your own fate. Okay, so here's scenario number 1. Let's say that no one in your family has ever actually had a heart attack, but you all have very high cholesterol levels. Doctors have always warned your family members that they should take cholesterol-lowering drugs, watch their diet, and exercise. Your family has a bah humbug attitude about it. They aren't gluttons, nor are they sloths. And they say that they eat everything in moderation and that they exercise occasionally. But they don't take any medications to lower their cholesterol. You are prematurely menopausal at only 37 years of age. None of the other females in your family became menopausal before the age of 55. Your cholesterol is extremely high, just like the rest of their families. And in this scenario, there are 2 routes that you can take if this is your situation. You can say, oh well, and ignore the fact that your premature menopause is a real game changer with regard to your heart attack risk. And in doing so, you could become the first person in your family to actually have a heart attack. Or you could say, holy cow, I better do everything I can to prevent a heart attack. And you can adopt a diet and lifestyle that would greatly lower your risk, start HRT right away, and follow your cholesterol closely, ready to take a cholesterol-lowering drug if necessary. The fact is that your personal situation is much more important than your family situation in determining the likelihood that you'll have a heart attack. See how that works? Okay, next is scenario number 2. Let's say you come from an immigrant family. Your ancestors were very hard workers. They climbed their way up the ladder to become prominent members of society, and now your family is very well off in America. Your relatives were all born in the homeland. Even your brothers and sisters were born there. But you're a lot younger than they are, and you were born in the United States. The rest of your family loves the traditional food from the homeland. They go to extremes to cook it regularly, and it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, but it's much healthier than the typical American diet, that's for sure. You don't know why they bother. You prefer the fast food of the good old US of A. Burgers and fries are your favorites. And you just don't get why all your relatives still work so hard when they don't have to anymore. You like to chill. You're sedentary. You smoke. You eat to your heart's content. Or actually, it isn't making your heart content at all. But you don't know that because no one in your family has ever had a heart attack. But your doctor has told you that you're at high risk for heart attack based on your genetics and your cholesterol studies. He was actually surprised that none of your relatives had actually had a heart attack. But you assume that because none of them have ever had a heart attack, you're immune from having one yourself. They've all stayed relatively thin with all their hard work and traditional food. But you're a real American and you're on the heavy side. Recently, you were diagnosed with diabetes type 2. Your kids are plump too, but you're fine with all that. Now, there are two possible routes for you to take in this scenario. You can realize that your family members have averted a heart attack by adhering to their healthier diet and lifestyle, decide that you should do the same and avoid having a heart attack yourself. Or you can continue your current habits and put yourself at great likelihood of having the first heart attack in the family. Now, for scenario 3. You come from a fat family. Everybody's fat. They're fat as kids, and they're fat as adults. There's a strong history of heart attacks at very young ages. Your father died from a heart attack at age 42. Your brother had a heart attack at the age of 40, but he's still alive. He's extremely sedentary, morbidly obese, and on oxygen. You have 7 other relatives who have had heart attacks too. Most of them died. Almost everybody smokes. They enjoy it. And fatty, chicken fried food is everybody's favorite. Your family eats a lot of it. Oh, and desserts are a must. You all spend a lot of time together doing nothing. You just like to hang around together and shoot the breeze. And you like the fact that you don't have any pressure from anyone in the family to get up and do anything. You all don't pressure one another at all. So, there are 2 routes you can take if you're in this family. You can mimic their behaviors and choices, in which case you'll probably end up having a heart attack just like most of them. Or you can adopt the healthiest lifestyle you can muster and avoid ever having a heart attack. You can eat a vegan, 100% plant-based diet. You can exercise regularly and stay very fit. You can avoid those fatty foods and sugary fatty desserts. You have the genes that predispose you to a heart attack, but how you live your life determines whether or not you'll ever actually have a heart attack. It's all up to you. So, what would your choices be in those 3 scenarios? I mean, really, be honest with yourself. And we all want to believe that we would choose the one that ends up well. But would you? My goal with these podcast tutorials is to impress upon you the fact that you have tremendous control over whether or not you have a heart attack, regardless